I forget how we usually start these things off. Just go, say something really smart sounding, and then we go from there. Okay, that's how we do it, okay. Oh, our Strick's here, okay, yeah, we can start then, good, yeah. I do remember that we can't start without Strick being here. Anybody got any tape recorders or whatever they need, we need up here? Get going. Wait, okay. We good? Okay. This is a good day for us. Very excited about our class. I think it's a very solid group that has balance, balance meaning positionally. We're trying to get our numbers as such where that we don't have to be too heavily laden at one position in any given year, and I think that we're starting to accomplish that with our third full recruiting class here. Like I said, I think it's a group that there's 22 signees from 13 different states. We've got a couple new states dotted. We've got Arkansas and Kansas joined the list this year as far as kids where we got. But this year that we reeled it in a little bit. We have 0 foreign countries this year, so that's where we are with that. But like I said, I think it's a very solid group, and a lot of the credit goes to Glenn Spencer and the assistant coaches. They did a tremendous job reeling this group in. And I tell you, it was a different group, and from the fact that it's just a different year that of the kids, of the 22 kids that we signed, 17 were committed before they started the first day of classes their senior year in high school. So as a result of that, everybody else knew who to fire at. They knew who the leader was and knew who to fire. But it was the first time that's happened to me that I've been a part of a class like that where so many of them committed so early. But that's the trend in college football, and the kids that said they were coming to Duke are coming to Duke, and you don't want to go through that on signing day like some schools do. So very excited about the group, and bright future to add another good solid class on what we've already got here.
Was it part of your design to get these guys committed, or did they just happen to commit?
Both. Yeah. It was, when so many kids were in camp, and there's not a better evaluation than having kids in your camp. And because you know more about them. You know more about them as kids. You know more about them, how they work, how they take coaching, and then obviously the ability to assess them, and evaluate their athleticism. And so that's a good thing. And I think it came at a good time.
Is it important within that sometimes to be the first school to offer them and show that consistent interest in them? When they hear so many different messages?
Absolutely. For a lot of kids, that's what it comes back to, because it's you don't forget your first offer. So I think that you always remember that. So, but it did come back in a couple instances where there was some highly recruited kids, but because we were the first ones in, it worked out for us.
Ken, when you nail somebody down so early, does that make it easier, or do you have to work just as hard maintaining those commitments as well as going after the other 5 and fill it out?
Well, they're committed, but they're not signed. So you recruit them just as hard or even harder. And then you hope that the relationships and the things like that sustain over the course of time. And, we were fortunate enough where that did occur.
Am I right, you lost one of your very early commitments? Is that...
Well, yeah, and I can't really get into why.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But pretty much you kept the guys you had in the summer, maybe one exception.
Everybody that committed to us that was going to be admissible to school signed with us.
Okay. Is getting them early, did it have any, was it a big help in view of the fact, would it have been tougher the way the season went, and, the losses piling up, done a real good job?
Well, I think we'd have still done a good job, Al, but certainly, yeah, that would have certainly been a factor, closing on kids. And, but like I said, it happened at a good year as far as, having the bulk of our class done really before or at least in place before the season started.
You also talked about the desire to redshirt most of the class teams. I believe 17 guys last year?
Yeah.
I mean, is that fair to assume that the great majority of these guys will be redshirted now?
Well, that's, as you develop your program, that's what you want. And there'll always be freshmen that play, but you just hope that we don't lead America in the number of freshmen that play like we did, for 2 years in a row there. But we certainly want to move that way and stay on track with what we were last year, because it's just if you look at the successful programs, they're playing with more 23-year-olds than they are with 18-year-olds. And that's just a fact of life, that a lot of things go on with a young man, especially with his body, between 18 and 23. And there will be some that'll play out of this class. I don't know how many. And that's the other thing about it, as far as actually getting them here, getting them on our practice fields with our players and our coaches and our equipment, and seeing what it is that you actually have. We all have a good idea of what we do have, but you really can judge a class a couple years out as far as the impact. But I think this is a very solid group that will fit in well to what we're trying to do here at Duke.
So who was the last guy to come online for you guys, and what was the timing on that?
It was Eddie Morgan. Eddie had committed to Stanford, and was committed to Stanford much of the year, and then he committed to us the middle of last week.
What did it take in terms of effort to make some of the decisions, and somebody that comes at the last minute?
Just getting him here. Just getting him here is a big deal. And there was a staff change over there, and I think that contributed to it. But it was just, and we get a very large percentage of the kids that visit Duke. Once that we get them here on campus, we get a larger percentage than any other school I've ever been at, as far as kids that visit that you actually sign.
When did you visit?
Last weekend.
You did visit?
This past weekend, whatever this past.
Florida State thing?
Yeah.
Coach, what's the hardest type athlete to get to come here? Is it a kid who's very athletic, or maybe an offensive lineman, or what are you maybe working harder to try and get into your program? The athletic type kid, or maybe a line?
Well, I think that if you go across, if you ask 119 Division I head coaches that, I think you'd probably get the same answer at most every school, and that's defensive linemen. They're worth their weight in gold, and I think across America, not just at Duke, but the other schools I've been at as well. I think that's the toughest position, because those guys are so coveted, the defensive linemen.
How hard is it to recruit from North Carolina? So I know you got a couple of neighbors here, NC State, UNC, but also Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Tennessee comes in as well. Is it getting more and more difficult to recruit here in Charlotte State?
Well, it's certainly with the quality of football here in North Carolina, it's everybody comes in here. But what I've found is that everybody goes everywhere. The old diamond in the rough, hiding a kid, those days are over. With all the information that's available, and the instantaneous information that's available. Because these kids get on the internet and they read, and coaches get on the internet and they read, and all the recruiting services and things of that nature. But because of the top level football here in the state of North Carolina, certainly a lot of schools, most everybody comes in here to recruit. So it's certainly competitive.
Have you figured out how big Cedric Jones' family tree is now? How many more maybe?
I don't know, but if we got any more like him, I'm all for him, I'll tell you that.
Ted, was there one thing in this class you guys felt like you needed to get more than anything?
Well, I think that we approached the year knowing that we needed to get some linemen and a quarterback. We only have, when Zach gets back, we're only going to have, if we hadn't signed a quarterback, we'd only have 2 on scholarship. And, so I think that was a critical piece to the puzzle for us. And then, and some speed, some secondary players. And I think that we did, Randez James, the kid out of San Antonio's, got a chance to win the 6A 100-meter dash in the state of Texas, and that's a pretty fast state. And there's some other. We got Matt Pridemore, who's already matriculated to Duke from Buford High School, who was there was a high school running back that is going to have a chance to play for us in the secondary. His father played at West Virginia and played for the Falcons for a long time. So we've got some. I think we've addressed some needs there.
How do you guys assess the offensive line group on the whole? Is there anybody in particular that's more ready physically for that? Or?
Yeah, I was just talking to Coach Stroll before we came over, just talking about we finally, coming into spring, it's like we have some good depth on the offensive line. Those kids we redshirted last year and the ones coming back, you look across the board, we're good too deep. And takes a little pressure off this group as far as thinking the kid's got to be an impact player early, which allows it. That's one of those positions where a fifth-year offensive lineman is a lot better off than that freshman offensive lineman. There's a lot to go into it, so feel really good about giving those guys a chance to grow. You never know what might happen, but giving this freshman offensive line a chance to grow and to be good fourth and fifth-year players is, for the first time, I think we're able to do that.
Y'all know Glenn is our assistant head coach and recruiting coordinator and secondary coach, so make sure that all of you know Glenn Spencer.
Can I ask a follow-up? Can you talk about a little bit about the Jones twins? I mean, because physically, are they anything like their father or their uncle?
Well, I think they're built more like like Tyler than they are like Cedric. They're thick, compact, physically mature, both about the same size. Because I think they were both born about the same time, within a couple seconds of one another, anyway. No, I know. So they're built more like Tyler as far as more compact. CJ had a little bit more range, I think.
Did I see you had one of them listed as a
Yeah, one of them is a defensive back, run as a running back. Yeah.
Am I to assume that's interchangeable or not?
Well, I don't think so. They're both similar type players in that regard, but in evaluating them and seeing the tape, I think they both could probably play on both sides of the ball. But due to our number situation, we recruited one as a running back and one as a defensive back.
I mean, with the Duke connection, was that a slam dunk recruiting, or what was that like?
I don't think there is any such thing as a slam dunk. Do you, Glenn?
No.
Got to work at them all.
Yeah. Who did you go up against?
Out of the northeast.
Yeah, school's up in the northeast.
You mentioned you needed a quarterback. What is there about Capetto that appealed to you, and how will he?
Efficient. He's very efficient. Understands the game. He gets it, and he's got a live arm. He's an accurate passer, and has enough mobility to, I think, maybe to escape the first guy and still stay in the pocket and deliver the football.
Were you trying to get more than one quarterback in this class, or one or not? Considering you had some depth issues.
Yeah, well, we wanted to at least get one and then see how the next best available thing got out after we kind of got our numbers, because we go into every recruiting year with goals at each position, but not just to take a kid at a position because he plays that position, but make sure he's what we think we need to win. And once we fill those needs, then we dance around as far as next best available player at this position or this position, and also who we have a chance to get. That's certainly a factor in it as well. So with all those factors, it just worked out that way, but we had to get one.
I see you list Maggio as a punter, but in his resume, he also has background as a place kicker.
Yep.
Can you talk about him and what you expect, or?
Well, that should fall on Art Chase. No, he's also a place kicker, and he will. I think he'll be able to do both.
That's what I was going to ask. He's going to compete at both spots because you have young players, or you have returning players at both spots.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could improve.
Competition is a wonderful thing, Al, and it makes everybody better.
How long ago did you establish a relationship with Brian Morgan, and would you consider maybe him the gem of the class?
Heck, it's been a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, I mean, his junior year over in Hoover, Alabama. And when we started recruiting him last year, we bid a couple of 1A schools wanted to sign him. Brian, his mother is is a doctor over in Birmingham. He really has aspirations of going in the medical field. And just recruit them hard, recruiting that whole family hard, and the kid. You know, we were a little pressed for numbers last year. Kind of got squeezed out. And he was a little light at the time to be an offensive lineman. So we talked him into going to Mercersburg and trying to develop, put on some weight, and kind of wait his time to come to the school that he really wanted to come to. And now all of a sudden, we've got a kid that's a year later, heavier, more mature, and now his clock hasn't even started yet. So, of course, it's left to be seen on all of them, but we think Brian is a tremendous athlete. And, we all know about that Hoover program. He's got a tremendous winning attitude, and he'll be great in the locker room. And probably going to move him to center because he's so athletic, and see how he can do there. He's played tackle and guard up at Hoover and up at Mercersburg. So he's an exciting kid to get in the program for sure. He'll help us out in that area, in that state, in years to come. You know how that works out sometimes, to have a kid from that kind of program.
When you talk about speed, who are the other guys that have exceptional speed?
Well, I think that you look at Pridemore. He won the 200-meter dash in the state of Georgia. Randez James, who, like I said, I think has a chance to win the state 6x800-meter title in the state of Texas. And Tony Jackson from New York. Josh Tresvant from Arkansas. I think those are some of the guys that jump out at me initially.
Is that Pridemore is already here?
Yeah.
Are there any others?
I think he's the only. Yeah, he's the only one. Yeah.
Tim, what do you feel that you've done overall for the program in this class?
I think that we've stacked another class on top of two really good ones. A very solid class that, like I said, I think that'll help get us on the track to balance some things out. And I think with this class, like Glenn alluded to earlier, there won't be such a you've got to play right now mentality. You want them to have that mentality. But, you look at college football, and before the internet and before a bunch of services came out, if a guy went to a college, redshirted, played by his third year, and started his senior year, that was thought that he had a pretty good player, pretty good career. And now, because of so much information and the hoopla and everything that surrounds recruiting, there's so many kids feel so much pressure to play as a true freshman, and it's hard. It's hard to play as a true freshman, especially in the league that we play in. So I think that we've gotten to where we can. We've gotten to our foundation such now where we can continue to recruit and build on the program and not have the pressure on the kids to walk in the door, and us as coaches having to count on our incoming class to play a substantial amount of them to win games.
Was Gary got pretty much over his injury by the time he got to Hargrave? He get a full year in there last fall.
Yeah, he was. He was a high school quarterback, and they moved him to receiver some, and now he's put on probably 30 pounds. He's probably up to 225 or 230. So, those guys that go to the prep schools and the things, it's like they've already had a redshirt year. So, and they've already gone through the transition as far as being away from home and establishing a new circle of friends and teammates. So that I think the transition for those guys may be a little bit easier. But each individual is obviously different and unique.
What caught your eye on Justin Wolferson? He appears to be the only kind of real local guy who's on the road.
Well, for me, it was his athleticism. When he saw him carry the football at fullback at 245 pounds, he could step over people and make people miss. And you saw him on defense, and you saw a real burst as far as closing speed, how he accelerated through people, and that's what caught my eye. Plus his growth potential. I mean, he's got a chance to be big.
He was playing linebacker at this size in high school?
He probably played it. He vacillated this year between 220 and 240 and 245. He got last year in camp. He was 225, and then he came down for a game and he was almost 250, and so then he's playing basketball now. But that's guys like that are just football players and that can accelerate and athletic, and that's what caught my eye.
Ted, would you be in favor of an early signing period like basketball has?
Yes.
How would you do it, given the rules that you can't have them on campus for an official visit to let them attend their first class or interview?
Were you in the NCAA head coaches meetings? This sounds like you were, Bob. That's a good question. And you're right, as far as structuring it, how to do it, you know, whether it be let a kid take a couple official visits during the summer before his senior year, or something like that. But there's a lot of studies and talk going on right now about maybe the best way to do that, because I'd certainly be in favor of it. You know, I think it would be good for the kids, number one, because the kids that commit early go through a lot, and I think that'd be good for them. And I also think it would be a good cost-cutting measure for schools. You know, you go out and, like in our instance, if we had I don't know, just picking out a date, December 1st signing day, and we're signing 20 kids, that's, 20 less kids that you go see every week for the next, 6 more stops, which when you're at a place like Duke, from a cost standpoint, where you're a national perspective, that's a lot of money.
Were there any or many of these guys that you had to really sweat out and stay on top of for that reason? Or were you pretty confident?
We were pretty confident, Al. It's like we just took people at their word, and it's been my experience here that sometimes there's some of that, but traditionally here at Duke, there's not a lot of that goes on.
I just bring it up because football recruiting more than any other, it seems like there are late switches, guys that are verbally committed.
Yeah.
All one here in Durham, very prominent.
Yeah, it happens. There's no doubt about that. It happens.
Do you know how many of this list with your camp?
Do you, off the top of your head?
Even close?
Let's see. Five or six. 6 or 7, somewhere in there. Somewhere in that neighborhood. A little bit more than a handful. How about that?
Not a slew, but a handful.
A handful, yeah. There you go. There you go. Anything else?
Did you lose out on any Swedish prospects this year? Get feed or?
Keep asking them to send me over there and look it out. They won't do it.
NC State got a German this year.
Yeah.
Started a trend.
Well, you look at basketball. That's where all the foreign players that are flooding the American college basketball. That as football grows over there, that's American football takes off. It's certainly going to increase over there, and so will the exposure. And then all of a sudden, you get kids that come to America and play college football. That news travels fast back overseas, and those games it's growing really. And then with NFL Europe too, So.
How have those kids progressed that you brought last year?
Fantastic. They were both redshirted, and I'm very excited about both of them, and I think that we'll see some good things this spring from them. But I'm real, not only over there but up there too. The Rwandan Canadian young man that we have too. We're able to redshirt all 3 of them, and I think it's gonna work out good.
Is it because they didn't know the game as well as the guys who grew up with it?
I think that because they haven't played it as many years, they didn't start when they were this high. They kind of picked it up, and it was, but I certainly think just from an exposure standpoint, that certainly has an impact on it. Yeah. Good. All right.